Hello, I'm Jasmine Alvarez.
I'm Kemdi Wosu.
I'm Justin Rosette.
And I'm Noah Sakadas. Welcome back to The Report. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, X, at The Report CSUF, and on our Titan TV Instagram at Titan TV CSUF to stay in touch with us and keep up with the latest content.
A wrongful death lawsuit against several social media platforms brought on by a mass shooting has been allowed to move forward by a judge. 5 out of the 14 lawsuits against Meta, Alphabet, Reddit, and 4chan have been pushed forward by Supreme Court Justice Paula Ferroletto. In her decision, the judge says that these companies, quote, profit from the racist, anti-Semitic, and violent material displayed on their platforms to maximize user engagement, end quote. This case is in direct reference to the amount of exposure 18-year-old Peyton Gendron had to this type of material while on these platforms. The judge believes the lawsuit is relevant to Gendron's indoctrination and then a mass shooting he carried out at a grocery store in Buffalo, New York in 2022. Lawyers for these platforms filed to dismiss the lawsuit, claiming that message boards on these platforms are full of third-party content. Court documents go on to say that these platforms, quote, are sophisticated products designed to be addictive to young users, and they specifically directed Gendron to further platforms or postings that indoctrinated him with white replacement theory, end quote. Gendron's manifesto claims that his radical and racist vision to shoot and kill 10 African-American people in December of 2022 came from information he received on the platforms named in the lawsuit. The judge believes that it is too soon to throw a case like this out before exploring the culpability these platforms hold when it comes to spreading radical beliefs. What do you guys think? Do you think that these social media platforms should be held responsible?
I think about it. I do wonder, I think there's some level of responsibility that they have because, I think just forums, just anything like that, whether it be on Reddit or any type of Twitter or anything like that, these people that have these ideas to go and shoot up places, they, before the internet, they were kind of just by themselves, but now that they have a community that they can join and be a part of, it kind of just confounds their ideas and makes it feel oh, okay, it's all right to be thinking this way and I should continue doing this and plot other plans. And yeah, so I do think the internet has some kind of responsibility, but then again, I do think it should not be the forefront. The parent should take some responsibility, and then of course the person that committed the act should have the utmost responsibility.
I agree. I think from the perspective of the violent individual, these communities that are on Meta and on 4chan and Reddit, they kind of show that these people are not alone, that they're not outcasts. But I don't think it directly is responsible for them going out and committing the violent acts. These individuals need to be held responsible for their own actions rather than just the system itself. There's also a lot of questionable language, especially third-party content. What exactly is that? What does that dictate? What are we talking about? Sponsored information coming in from, say, China or Iran? Or are we talking about individuals, American citizens specifically, that have more radicalist views? What is third-party content specifying exactly? That's my question.
I feel if you want to investigate these sort of social media websites in terms of how they can limit this more radical content, I think you could, but I think when it comes to this case, I think it's more of an issue of just hate that this person had for a specific group of people than a social media website. I think in general, when you look at the situation here, he walked into a supermarket and he killed 10 black people. And I think he had a document on his computer in which he talked about the great replacement theory, which is the theory that other groups of races are trying to extinct white people. And he also talked a lot about how black people were intellectually inferior and that they were criminals. So I think this is more of an issue of hate that he had for black people, and he ended up taking that out in obviously a terrible way. Overall, I think, like I said, if you want to limit what you can look at on social media apps, I think you can. But overall, I don't think that should be the reason what they're talking about in this lawsuit. I think it's more of an issue of the internal, which is the hate that he had.
Right. I think definitely these social media platforms should be held responsible, right? Not completely, and I don't think that they need to be held responsible in terms of taking full blame and accountability of the actions of the mass shooter, right? But I mean in terms of promoting and making it easier for these kinds of individuals to have access to more hate and more of this propaganda that is going to just promote more of their radical ideas or thoughts and behaviors, right? And it made me think, when Kemdi mentioned about how a lot of times it connects them to communities, right? Where they can connect with people with like-minded ideas. And sometimes these ideas are radical and very scary and they can be dangerous, right, to the public. When you have that, right, that sense of community, kind of going back to what Kemdi says, it really does fortify them and it helps make them think, okay, yeah, my thoughts, my plans, they're fine. I'm going to execute them. What I'm doing, what I'm thinking, it's all good and dandy. Let's go ahead and go out with it. And it made me think of when they overtook the Supreme Court justice, how it was also the same thing with that radical behavior coming together, that community where they planned things. I mean, I don't know. It makes me think back to that. And I think that the platforms are trying to get ahead of that. I think that's really what this lawsuit was trying to get at. Not so much taking blame away from those actions, but more so, hey, did you guys help in this bagwagon of ideas? Did you guys have something to do with it? Let's see, what else? What do you think? I mean, I think we've all shared about we don't think that it takes away from the shooter, but I'm curious to just really see, do you think that this court case does take away blame from the shooter at all?
Well, I don't know. I feel like, because when I think of like cases like this, it just reminds me of like I of course wasn't around to experience this, but in the 90s, I know like a popular thing was to blame like any shooting or any event that happened on like violent video games. And I feel like people might try to just do that with this particular case, especially when you have like topics such as the Great Replacement Theory. People kind of just want to like edge that out and more focus on like, what they think the actual cause is.
I think it's a domestic situation primarily, and I think it's an intolerance issue. I think there's a lot of hate that's spread around, but I think that also a lot of that hate comes from the home for a lot of these kids. I don't think they have a good support system, and I think it's really important that we express the love that we can share and that we can provide to these kids, especially coming from social workers. I think their work a lot of times is very underappreciated. I think we really need to assist in making sure that these kids have more outreach and showing that there is a better way, that you don't have to be around these violent people if that's what you're, always around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, overall, I don't think this lawsuit takes away the blame from Kyle Gendron because he also has already been sentenced to life in prison. So I don't think that they're trying to say that because of the social media apps, they should take away from his sentence. Because he's already sentenced, I think they're more so trying to make this a future thing with social media apps. But I also think in general, like a lot of people, everyone has access to the internet, the same access that he had to those apps. Everyone has that same access, but not everybody's going to go out and kill people, So I think it's more of an issue of, like I said before, the hate that he had in his heart for Black people, which is unfortunate and goes back to, like you said, people aren't born in those kind of ways. It's things that you're taught and like in the home you're raised in. So it's unfortunate that couldn't be fixed before he went out and did that, but that's just what it is.
Millennials and Gen Z alike owe a big chunk of their childhood viewing experience to an iconic orange splat network called Nickelodeon. The documentary Quiet on Set featured several actors and former child stars who alleged abuse, inappropriate behavior, and a toxic work environment while appearing on shows produced by Dan Schneider. The notorious children's show producer had a hand in creating some of the channel's biggest hits, including All That, Keenan and Kel, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, iCarly, and Victorious. Schneider parted ways with the network in 2018, and around the same time, more and more of his questionable behavior on set and treatment of others began coming to light. The documentary's most notable stars is Drake and Josh star Drake Bell, who comes forward with accusations against the dialogue coach Brian Peck. In response to the documentary, Dan Schneider has released a response apologizing for his previous actions. In a video interview, he stated that viewing the documentary was difficult and embarrassing. He further stated, quote, "Facing my past behaviors, some of which are embarrassing and that I regret, and I definitely owe some people a pretty strong apology," end quote. So what do you guys think? Are you believing this apology? How do you feel about the documentary? Did you get a chance to see it at all, or?
Not yet, but it really does seem like Dan Schneider is trying to cover up for some of the what was originally considered acceptable behavior back on set, way back when. I don't think this is genuine. I think this is just a way for him to try to clear his name in any way he can. He knows he's screwed. He knows this is essentially the big end to whatever he had going for him. So, yeah, I don't believe this, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's a very sad story because there's so many shows that we grew up watching, and Nickelodeon, like iCarly, Victorious, Drake and Josh, shows that we loved, and now it's kind of tainted sad in a way because we don't really know what was going on behind the scenes, like of those episodes that we love so much. I think it's just anytime you see older people that are taking advantage of children like they show. I saw a little bit of the last episode where Drake Bell came out and talked about how one of the producers was kind of like... Yeah, and so I think overall, in a recent interview, Dan Schneider did, he's doing this now after everything's coming out, which is kind of interesting. But he said, there are so many times I wanted to pick up a phone and call people and say, I'm so sorry, let's talk about it. So I guess my question would be, why didn't you do that before?
Yeah, if he was genuine. Yeah. So if he was genuine, why didn't he come out with it when the original allegations were put out back in 2018 when he left Nickelodeon? Yeah, like many years that he had to make these apologies. And now the documentary comes out and the next day he's, I'm so regretful. It's like, you could have been regretful 5 or 6 years ago, but I think it's more of a trying to save face thing. I don't think it's genuine.
Yeah, I have to agree. I don't think it's genuine at all. In terms of the apology, I don't think it's up to me to accept or not, right? I think it would have to be up to the victims, right? The actors who had to endure his abuse, as well as his coworkers who had to also endure verbal abuse from him, as reports have come out. It's unfortunate. These actors are going to have lifelong traumas, unfortunately. So it's like, is an apology enough? That's my question. Is it enough for these actors who are going to deal with this? And although that this trauma does not define them, it is something that they're going to have to revisit. It's going to be a pain that they're going to have to feel. It's going to be aching. It's kind of like a broken bone that aches whenever it rains, right? It's going to be the same thing. And personally, I don't think an apology is enough. There's been so many actors who have come out, not just from this documentary, but beforehand as well, like Jeanette McCurdy, who came out in her book, who spoke about what it was like working under Dan Schneider. So, there's so many actors, and if we look at these child stars and we've seen kind of the trajectory as well of a lot of their lives, I think it's pretty telling. I think it's definitely he's trying to save face. At the end of the day, I do prefer that at least it seems that he's taking accountability. He did say, I am aware that my actions were bad, and I do prefer that over someone who is cowarding away and hiding from the truth, right? We've seen that a lot too, where they'll run away from it, or they'll either try to avoid it or say, no, it's not what it seems. It seems like he is trying to at least take some accountability, but at the end of the day, I don't know if it's enough, the apology, and I don't buy it.
My real problem here is that this has been a very, not just Nickelodeon, but the whole pedophilia situation, and it's been a very open secret in Hollywood for a long time, and we have quotes from many actors. We have Corey, I think his name was Corey Feldman. He was an actor on Goonies, and we have Bella Thorne. We have a ton of different actresses actors that were child stars in television, Disney and Nickelodeon, that talk about their experiences being in really awkward sexual encounters on set. And it was a really big problem, and it's been in very open secret in Hollywood. We had the Harvey Weinstein case, we've had Kevin Spacey, we've had numerous actors in places of authority, not authority, but in places of heavy influence that have been caught red-handed. And then, this person knew, forget Oprah Winfrey was aware of the Harvey Weinstein situation. Yeah. It's just really, really shocking how many people are in on it, and just now that Me Too movement started getting big and all of these cases started coming to light, it's like, okay, now we're against it, Right. It just seems like are they faking it? It's not just Dan Schneider. It seems like it's the whole system that is suddenly, oh no, we're the good guys,
I agree. And to add a little bit onto that, not to just add too much, but I think it's also telling, it wasn't just going on behind the scenes. It was happening on screen. Yeah. We have proof. There's so many videos on YouTube where it showcases the what is it called? His feet. Yes, his affliction with feet, and just how much it was showcased on these different shows. It wasn't just on one show, guys. It was on multiple shows that we consumed, at least me, because it was during, some of the shows that I grew up watching, but these were things that we consumed and grew up watching. So it does raise the question, how much influence do they have over what children are starting to consume? And in the documentary, Dan is like, oh no, I would have said no if they would have told me, but why did you do it then? Why did you put that in there? What in your right mind made you think it was okay? And it does make me question, and wonder. And a lot of parents nowadays don't want their kids consuming a lot of this media. Why? Because of people like Dan Schneider who promoted this kind of thing and this kind of media to children and stole their innocence when they were young. Let's call it as it is, Yeah, and there's a lot of videos resurfacing now of like things that we used to think were funny as children, or now we find like disturbing as like videos of.
Because we have like full context now.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really sad to look at. YouTube has decided to have creators label when a video they use has been AI generated. At the time of upload, the platform will prompt creators if any content, quote, makes a real person say or do something they didn't do, alters footage of a real place or event, or depicts a realistic looking scene that didn't actually occur, end quote. The transparency is designed to help prevent users from becoming confused by artificial subject matter. Since the rise of customer targeted AI tools, it has become extremely difficult to determine real content from fake. AI created subject matter such as text, pictures, video, and audio can confuse and mislead users of the app. The platform announced that a label will be attached to AI generated content. This will all roll out with the future update to YouTube, which is planned for later this fall. So my first question to you guys with this is, do you think this is a smart move by YouTube to have creators label AI videos?
You want to start, Kim?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really like AI generated videos, to be honest. You can tell like when they're AI generated because AI hasn't like evolved that well. Like I know we have ChatGPT and everything, but even that like has its mistakes every now and then. And the kind of videos that AI generates sometimes, they just seem like so devoid of humanity. But I do think it's good for like kids because like they aren't as like smart as like me as like a 20-year-old. And like they might be like instantly like just like kind of like hooked on like kind of whatever. And I don't think it's right. I feel like they should be attracted to like videos made by humans, and videos that like if AI's generated them, I don't know, something connected to like advertising. They might be good. AI is probably better at sneaking in advertisements, to be honest. So I feel like that's like a tool that they're probably going to use in the future to try to like market to kids. But
I've seen some pretty advanced AI footage, to be honest. I can see it getting bigger. I can see it becoming a potential threat. But personally, I'm not too worried about it. I don't think that adding a label over the video is like going to make any kind of difference. Like I personally don't think it's that big of a deal at the moment. I could see it becoming a threat in the future, but I know that at the moment there is a lot of concern, especially in government, as to the rise of AI and how that can influence future politics and society in general. But yeah, I personally don't find a problem with it right now, but I can be wrong, of course.
I think so far it sounds good, right? We've heard of some different policies within YouTube where a lot of YouTube creators seem to be upset by them. But I think at the end of the day, they're trying to be proactive. They're trying to make sure that we as consumers, right, people at home as consumers, aren't taking in things that are fake, thinking that they're real, right? Or being sold lies, which that seems to be a lot of things that have been promoted recently with like ads. They're promoting to have disclosure that it's an ad, make it very visible, whether that's in the video itself or in the description, or I believe now that it states it has to be in the description. So there's different things now in place because as consumers, we've asked, hey, we want more transparency. So I do think it's a good policy to protect us. So we also know, hey, don't get catfished in a way, But I think, I don't think there's any harm in it. Yeah.
I think it's harmless as well. I think it's just a good thing just so users know what they're getting into if a video is altered by AI at all. I remember a couple months back, it was pretty popular. There's like people made an AI like complete like album of like Drake songs, but like none of it was him, but it's like sounds just like him. And so like those kind of things, it's like getting really scary. And like other voiceovers that you'll hear with like presidents or people of high authority saying like crazy things, it's like it's getting kind of scary what AI can do. So I think it's definitely going to help just to know like, okay, what I'm about to watch is not real, you know, so that it doesn't.
Apple bottom jeans.
Yeah.
The Women's Festival this past weekend was a great way to celebrate Women's History Month. City Council member Ahmed Zara announced Fullerton's 2024 Women of the Year. He was accompanied by previous Women of the Year recipients including Carmine Calito, advocate at CSUF's Center for Healthy Neighborhoods, and Litsi Galarza, a current biochem student at CSUF. They all greeted Leanna Forcusi at Fullerton's 2024 Women of the Year. Forcusi is a Fullerton resident, business owner of the CSUF Dance Academy, and board chair member for the Fullerton Collective. She expressed her gratitude and compassion to other women-owned businesses who made their appearance as vendors at the event. There were many female businesses in attendance, ranging from jewelry brands to independent film productions, all making their presence known in the city. Another notable figure highlighted during the event was Lupe Ramirez, who was honored by State Assembly member Sharon Quirk Silva. Ramirez was awarded California's 67th District Women of the Year award for helping Quirk Silva pass legislation to cap rental fee increases in Fullerton and Anaheim, a feat we are sure the citizens are excited about. So are there still barriers, do you guys think, for women? Many think that society nowadays is maybe better off than ever, but it's only been about 100 years since we gave women the right to vote. What do you guys think about this?
I think there's definitely still barriers for women. You know, we definitely still see, not all industries, but there are some industries where there are still more male-led industries, and it could be a little bit more challenging, not necessarily for a woman to get her foot through the door, but even in that setting where it's more male-dominated, where a woman could feel a little bit like, well, what's my point in speaking up? Or why should I say something when, you know, the male vote might not go my way? And, you know, and it's not necessarily about being the one, it's like, I have to be on top, but it's about being heard and making sure that we create a safe environment for women, making sure that they feel safe, seen, and heard and respected, I think, more than anything. But I think that there's definitely still some barriers. Like you said, it's been less than 100 years. We're inching up on that, but not quite yet. But there's a lot of movement we've made, but I'm hopeful that there's more progress to come.
Yeah, I think like you said, I think the main thing in terms of women like getting over certain barriers is I think the respect thing. Like when they are in certain industries, like film industries or whatever, is like you said, they can get their foot in the door, but people may look at them certain way just because they are women and not give them the certain respect that they would give to other people. So I think that's more of a introspective thing for certain people, but I think that like over time, I feel like that will start to come to fruition more, just people having more respect for women and treating them as people.
Right.
I think the more that you introduce women into more male-dominated industries, the more professional it's going to be. I think the more respect they are going to receive from their male counterparts. And that's what we really need, is we need more women in maybe the harder jobs where there is, in fact, an extreme barrier with the amount of women and the amount of male workers. For example, you have to think about like oil drilling and sanitation, two of one of the most heavily male-dominated industries. There are barely any women that are involved in those positions. So I think if we're going to do it across the board, I think we should do it in every single department. If we want to have a total equality, if we want to have an understanding and professionalism of both sexes in every department, I think we should be able to make sure that there's a total balance.
Okay, I can see that, and I agree. Going back to the whole respect, and also I think checking biases. I think a lot of times as women, we've struggled with having more biases put on us than maybe our male counterparts. And this isn't just to go on a tangent, right? But this is simply to talk about how can we continue to appreciate outside of just Women's Month, our women in our lives and in our surrounding, in our work environments, whatever it may be. I mean, there's been countless times where we've seen biases. For example, we're here on the news, right? There was once a news station who conducted their own study where they had a female reporter wear the same outfit every single day for her news segment. Multiple men, mostly fans of the station, wrote in to complain about this female reporter wearing the same outfit and questioning whether or not everything was okay. Was she getting paid? What's going on? Does she take care of herself? What's happening? They did it the 2 previous weeks before they had, or a previous week, They had the male reporter do the same thing, wear the exact same suit for every single news segment. Not one person called it out. And I think this is things that we need to be aware of. Check your own biases. If there are things that we aware before you make a comment, think, okay, wait a minute, where is this coming from? Where is it stemming from? And am I just attacking them based off of their gender? You know, a lot of times we could be even reversed. We see a woman very dressed up who looks beautiful. And this is also women against women, not just men against women. I've seen it countless times too, where sometimes women will also pin each other down. And I think it's about respect more than anything, you know, checking our biases and just not judging based off a book off of its cover, you know, just how you would treat someone who's a male, same thing for a female, and vice versa, you know?
From the example you use, where it's the woman who wears the same clothes every time and the male who wears the same clothes for the every story, I think also you have to acknowledge that also comes from a lack of empathy for men in the same position too. You know, because you're saying like that people were asking her if she's okay because she's wearing the same thing. Is she being paid? Is she being taken care of? That's also like concern for her own well-being. Whereas like where you said the man who did the same thing, nobody cared. You know, nobody even asked him. So that also is. Point. That's also, that needs to be taken into account and recognized too, as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Kemdi, I got one last question before we wrap up. So there's been this women are too emotional narrative that has been pushed throughout history, throughout the last 100 years. Do you think this is damaging to both boys and girls?
I think so, to some degree, because, you know, as we're like guys, we're told like not to like express our emotions, but I feel like we also like experience like the same amount of emotion like females do. It's just like we're told to like, you know, just to hold it all inside. And I don't think that's healthy for you like whatsoever, whether if you're male or female, just hold everything in. I feel like that's like a very bad thing to do. And I feel like it's also not good for women also, because it makes them think like, oh, like he doesn't like you can never tell like with a guy like whether he's upset, something like that. But for women, like it's not like a thing like women are like hysterical, emotional all the time. It's not like I at least in my experience, I've never known that to be true, to be honest. Everyone's been very level-headed that I've ever encountered, and yeah.
And with that, we've run out of time.
Thanks to all of you for tuning in with us.
Don't forget to stay tuned for the latest in world news and different views.
We'll see you all next time on The Report.